during cancer treatment and after is a very commonly reported complaint. The reason this can be challenging is because patients already face the pain of a cancer diagnosis, and then on top of that, they feel the moral weight of being overweight. And so to that end, I recommend patients have a different goal. During treatment, weight loss may not be the most appropriate thing. However, afterwards, maintaining weight and trying to achieve a more healthy weight is a more realistic goal. So Mandy, can you share with us some eating habits that kind of set the stage for this problem in the first place? What can contribute to unwanted weight gain?
Thanks, that's a great question. And you're right, sometimes it is related to the cancer diagnosis itself, sometimes it could be related to treatments, but there are certainly eating habits that a lot of us have that may not be supportive or may not be helpful in those situations. So a couple of those, the first one that comes to mind is emotional eating. And what that means is we typically will have some kind of emotion that is either unpleasant or we're not ready to deal with or we want to kind of put on the back burner. And so what we do instead is say, let's get something to eat, right? I know for me personally, this is my go-to for procrastination. If there is a task that I am not excited to do, my brain is like, let's grab a snack. But I gotta stop and check in and say, okay, one of the best things that can be used is checking in on your physical hunger. And a hunger fullness scale can help you do that. So the hunger fullness scale goes from 1 to 10. 1 is that you're ravenous. You are starving, you need food right now. 10 is Thanksgiving full, so uncomfortable, I have had too much full. And then 5 is neutral, kind of neither here nor there. So if you stop and check in with your body and see where you're at on the scale, maybe I am a 2 or 3. I'm pretty hungry. I think I need a meal to help support my body. Maybe I'm closer to a 3 or a 4. Maybe a snack will suffice. Maybe I'm right in the middle and I'm not really hungry. Then eating that food or that meal or that snack is really not going to support me because it's not really addressing my physiological hunger. Maybe during a meal, I pull out this hunger fullness scale and I take a moment to be mindful and I check in with myself. I'm about halfway done with my meal. How am I feeling? Am I feeling satisfied? Am I close to like a 6 or 7? Am I feeling pretty good? Am I feeling full? Am I getting closer to 8 or 9 where I'm feeling pretty stuffed? This kind of just allows you to check in with your body and make decisions not based on your emotions or how you're feeling mentally, but rather listening to the signals our body is giving us. So that's a common one we see is emotional eating. Another one that we sometimes do, we've all done this, is mindless eating, right? We grab a bag of chips or a bowl of crackers or whatever it might be, and all of a sudden we look down and it's gone, right? We were eating it while we were watching TV or while we were distracted, and we're really just not present while we're eating, and that can lead to eating more than we really need. So a good tip is to try and be present whenever you're eating. Be at a place where you can appreciate the food, where you're sipping and you're savoring and you're smelling. What do you enjoy about it? What do you maybe not enjoy about it? Just really being present and listening to your body can also, you might also be able to hear from your body, oh, I need a little bit more of this, or, I'm really craving some protein, or I'm really craving this fruit or vegetable. When you're mindful, you can be in tune with those signals that your body is sending you. Sometimes, and especially for our cancer patients and their family members where this is kind of a stressful time, we might want to lean into processed foods or comfort foods, and that's really normal. What I tell my patients is don't fight it. That's okay, lean into that. But what you want to do is try and balance it. So let's say you're craving those crackers, right? You just want to grab your box of crackers and you want to eat those. What else can you add to it to help balance it out? Can you bring in some sliced cheese? Can you add a little peanut butter? Can you dip those crackers in hummus? Can you add a handful of cherry tomatoes or cherries or strawberries to that meal? eating in that way where you're bringing in balance to that plate is going to make you feel more full and satisfied. You're going to feel the satisfaction from getting that comfort food, but you're also getting nourishment from the other things that you're adding into your plate. And overall, in general, we just want to avoid any kind of extreme diets that cut calories way too low, diets that cut out whole food groups. Really, that is going to feel really restrictive, and it's going to cause this yo-yo, right? It's going to feel unrealistic, and then you'll probably go the other way where you're just like, free for all, I'm going to have whatever sounds good to me or whatever foods I've been staying away from. So overall, having kind of a healthy, balanced approach, think about what you could put in, not about what you have to take out.
So adding more.
Yes.
I like it. So I think you hit the nail on the head that with like weight gain, there's this sense of deprivation that must happen in order to balance yourself out. And rather than that, you're suggesting that we really just tune into our bodies, to our hunger scale, tune into the experience of eating with all 5 senses, and then, complement what we're eating with, pairing it, whether it's a, cookie, maybe have a string cheese with it. And then really finding the middle path of, realizing that, not one diet or one day alone will be, the judgment of you. Really, it's consistency over time and being kind to yourself, not falling into these traps of what you should be doing, but really listening to yourself. Okay, so then to that end, practically speaking, how can we, follow an eating pattern that makes us feel our best? How can, patients and their loved ones who support them feel their best?
Absolutely, and this is gonna look a little bit different. I love what you said, that there really isn't a one-size-fits-all for everybody. There's not a perfect diet. There are definitely rules that never change, like the more fruits and vegetables, the better. I don't think anybody would argue against that. But doing this work of turning in, checking in, listening to our bodies, which are so intuitive, and they're trying to send us messages. When we have bloating, when we have inflammation, when we have, these other things, it's your body trying to tell you something. And so checking in is important. Maybe for you, 3 meals a day is what feels good. A traditional breakfast, lunch, dinner, that feels good. Maybe for me, I like smaller, more frequent meals. Maybe my blood sugar is a little bit more liable, and I need kind of that more regularly scheduled meals. So that would be my first recommendation, is try out different eating styles and see what makes you feel your best. What makes you feel energized? What makes you feel supported? What makes you feel strong? So that's one thing. The overwhelming amount of literature on the Mediterranean diet has really put that to the top of the list. If you're looking for what diet is going to be the best, most supportive diet of my health long term, think the Mediterranean diet. And what that looks like is a diet that is heavy in plant-based foods, so you're going to see a lot of fruits, you're going to see a lot of vegetables, you're going to see a lot of whole grains in this diet. It's also supported by meats, seafoods, but also plant-based proteins, beans, nuts, legumes, seeds, and then all that topped with beautiful olive oil and healthy fats from walnuts and almonds and things like that. So if you're looking for a diet that's going to be supportive of you, think the Mediterranean diet. And again, like I said earlier, I think one thing we all agree on, sometimes you feel like nutrition information is changing day to day, and this was best, but now this is best. But one time-tested truth is that the more fruits and vegetables you can get in, the better. Those just come with so many benefits, and especially for our cancer patients, so many cancer-fighting benefits are hidden in those little foods that we're eating. So the more we can get in, the happier and more functional our body is going to be.
Great, great. So what I'm hearing is that to find an eating pattern that fits you best, you have to take a look at yourself first, and getting a sense of what works best for you. Is it 3 meals? Is it 6 meals scattered throughout the day in terms of, timing. And then the other aspect is just the quality of foods you're eating, highlighting a more whole food plant-based diet, a Mediterranean diet, these sort of timeless diets we see in communities around the world that live a very long time. The people who live to 100, right? Those blue zones. And so they all tend to practice that plant-forward eating. One comment I would say is sometimes patients of mine come in eating like a meat and potatoes diet. And so I encourage them just to educate yourself, read about it, go online, ask your doctor or a dietitian, what are ways you can start to incorporate this more? Because I think sometimes it can feel overwhelming to start a whole new diet, but just taking the baby steps, like we talked about earlier, can be a way to make that change. So now, what about intermittent fasting? I know this is one of the not just fads, because it's been around for thousands of years. Fasting has been around in human civilization for many years. But what about intermittent fasting? What do we know about it? Do we recommend it right now?
Yeah, so it's a very trendy topic, like you said, but it has been around for a long time, and there is a lot of research on it. There's not a ton of research in terms of its relation to weight management and weight loss, which is kind of what we're talking about right now. So what I would say about intermittent fasting is to avoid anything that is extreme. So some intermittent fasting protocols have you eat very low calorie, 200 to 500 calories for a couple days, and then on the other days you have as much as you want. That is really restrictive and can leave you with really low energy levels, really sluggish, and be really difficult to maintain. Some intermittent fasting protocols cut out whole food groups or have really long windows where they don't want you, where you should be fasting. So I would say, avoid anything extreme. Really kind of the safest way to practice intermittent fasting is to kind of follow our circadian rhythm. While the day is light outside, those are good times to eat. So typically a window of eating 10 to 12 hours. So let's say my first meal is at 8 a.m., my last meal is at 6 p.m., and then I fast throughout the night. That is a good, healthy way for your body to get the benefits of fasting without having the risks or hardships of having anything too extreme or impacting your blood glucose or your electrolyte levels because you're malnourished for a period of time. But definitely I would recommend checking in with your practitioner before you decide to do any kind of intermittent fasting. Make sure it's safe to practice, and that's what I would recommend starting with, is that 10 to 12 hour eating window, and then see how your body feels. See, how it functions with that kind of pattern.
Yeah. I think that's timeless wisdom, Mandy, because we know following your circadian rhythm, allows your body to be active during the day, which also aids, digestion and all your digestive enzymes, etc. So it makes a lot of sense. And, in terms of intermittent fasting, as of, our filming today, I think the meta-analyses are still, meaning the collection of studies that are looking at it, are still a little bit on the fence. And so I think it's safe to practice mindful eating, within, the normal human hours of eating, and then just stay tuned to as the data develops if there's any unique protocols that your doctor might suggest or dietitian. So thank you so much for sharing these tips on weight gain. Any last words you'd like to give our audience?
Yeah, I think that it's really helpful to have a mindset of really what can I bring into my diet rather than the other way around. Traditional diet culture is restrictive, things you have to take out, things that are bad, you're bad for eating it. Shift the focus. Think about what you can bring in and make small, reasonable changes. If you're the type of person that doesn't eat any vegetables, maybe we try to incorporate one a day. If you're the type of person that really leans onto highly processed foods, maybe we try and take one product and make it a little bit more wholesome. A product that has less ingredients or less additives, or we recognize everything on the food label. Taking those baby steps and thinking about, okay, what am I putting in? Where can I add this fiber? Where can I add this protein? Where can I get these leafy greens? It's just a lot more positive and sustainable. bring in your protein. Get your protein in. And that can be in the form of animal proteins, it can be plant-based proteins, but really we want to make sure that that's a focus of our diet. And make it easy for yourself. Keep your fridge stocked with things that are ready to go. You know, I always have a basket of berries that are washed that are right in front and center, so when I open the fridge or my kids open the fridge, they can grab that. And right next to it is, you know, some string cheese that they can grab. On my counter, I've got tomatoes that they can slice up, or oranges. In my pantry, I've got things like a can of beans that I could quickly heat up and add to things, or freeze-dried fruit that is kind of crunchy and fun to eat. So make it easy on yourself. Have things on hand that support you in your nutrition journey. And buddy up. Make sure that you are part of a community somehow. Research has said that's probably one of the biggest indicators of long-term success is having a community. So whether that's your family, your partner, an app that you're joining, a gym that you're joining, whatever it might be, being surrounded by people who are on a similar journey and supporting you in yours can be really beneficial for making long-term changes.
Absolutely. Wow. That is, I just want to move in with you, Mandy. I want to be in that pantry and that fridge with washed berries. I think, but that's something we can all do, right? Yeah. It doesn't take that much more. And I really love your message of social connectivity. And I think that's what we're really trying to do here in our integrative oncology and health program is connect people to individuals like yourself, experts, and we're all a community. So to that end, let's remind our audience of why we're here. Why don't you go?
All right,
let's nourish ourselves.